What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to go through my Euro last 16 games and who I think will qualify for the quarterfinals of the European Championships. So the first game is Wales against Denmark. It'll be a really emotional game. Both these teams have incredible spirits, both Wales and Denmark. Both had really contrasting tournaments. Wales have surprised everybody again at a European Championship. I had them to finish last in their group. They good draw against Switzerland in the first game. Really good performance against Turkey. Beat Turkey. Turkey was so disappointing in this tournament, but then they lost to Italy. But they played really well against Turkey in the second game. Done really well against Switzerland. Switzerland a better team, but they got the point they needed to finish second. Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey adding bits of quality at times. Kiefer Moore as well. Suits the system that Page uses. Really good performance by Wales so far. They're a very emotional team. They've got a really incredible spirit and passion. It'll be a really interesting game. But they're up against a Danish side who have had their own rollercoaster tournament. Obviously, Denmark, they're fighting for Christian Eriksen, who had a cardiac arrest in their first game against Finland, which they lost 1-0. But Denmark came back, didn't let them bother them. They did lose to Belgium, but in the first half, they played some absolutely brilliant football, completely outplayed Belgium. Belgium had to bring on De Bruyne and Hazard and all those guys to change the game in their favour. And then in the last game, Denmark kept fighting. Even though they lost to Belgium, they didn't give up. They knew they had to win the last game against Russia, which they did comprehensively 4-1. Two of the goals they scored were absolutely outstanding goals. The goal from Christensen was absolutely brilliant. Really was. Their crowd in Copenhagen as well have been absolutely fantastic. And Denmark are a very good team. They're a very good team. They've got some really good players. Ostergaard, I think his name. I can't pronounce his name, but he's really good player. The guy who plays Southampton as well. It's really good. They've got some really talented players. They really have. It'll be a really interesting game. I think it'll be close between Wales and Denmark, but I'm going to go for Denmark. I think Denmark will edge it. I think the Welsh journey will come to an end, but they will score. I think Wales will score, but I think Denmark are a bit too much quality for them. I think Denmark are a better team than Turkey, and I think they're a better team than Switzerland. They're not better than Italy. They're not better than Italy, but they're better than the two of the previous three teams that Wales played against. And yeah, I'm going to go for Denmark 2-1 against Wales. Then we got Austria against Italy. Start with Italy. Italy have been absolutely tremendous. All three games, no goals conceded. They scored 3 against Turkey, completely outplayed Turkey, 3 against Switzerland, and they beat Wales. So every single opponent in their group, they beat every single one of them. Locatelli's been absolutely outstanding. The way they play football is just amazing. It really is. Pressing is just ridiculous. Insigne, Locatelli, who I just mentioned, is just tremendous. He'll go for a load of money. Immobile, Spizzola. They've got some really good players, Italy. Really impressive. Mancini's been an excellent job at Italy, bringing them back from the death. Italy didn't qualify for the last 2 tournaments. They were in a dark place before Mancini came in. 30 games unbeaten. Chiellini and Bonucci have been absolutely outstanding at the back. They're a really good team, Italy. They'll be really hard to beat. They really will. They had a really good group stage. But they're up against Austria, who have had a mixed group stage. First game, they beat North Macedonia 3-1. It's their first ever win at a Euros. Pretty comprehensively. They beat North Macedonia in the first game. Then they lost to the Netherlands in no shame losing to Holland. Holland are a miles better team than Austria, with all respect to Austria, but they are. Austria have some really good players. Sabitzer, David Alaba, obviously. So they have got some talent in their squads. They really have. I think it'll be a bridge too far for them. I think they beat Ukraine in the last game as well. It's condemning Ukraine to finish second, and they just edged Ukraine. But I think it'll come to an end for Austria. I just don't think that they're going to have enough to beat Italy. I think Italy will beat them pretty comprehensively. I think it's a pretty easy prediction, that one, with all respect to Austria. But yeah, I think Italy will go through to the quarterfinals. The Netherlands against Czech Republic. Netherlands, like Italy, have been absolutely fantastic throughout this tournament. Very open at the back. That's the only weakness with Holland, is that they play so high, they leave spaces at the back, and they haven't been really tested yet. But Depay's been fantastic in this tour. Not Depay, De Vries. De Vries has been really good. The fullback, he's been tremendous. He really, particularly against Austria, was absolutely outstanding. De Jong as well. Every time he gets the ball, he looks to go forward. Just an outstanding player. Frankie De Jong, really good performance by him in the Euros. You know, they had home advantage. The Dutch, they have in Amsterdam, they had home advantage, but they've beaten the teams they're expected to beat. You know, the game against Ukraine was a bit dodgy. You know, they let in 2 goals. They let a 2-0 lead slip, but then they did recover and win the game. You know, Holland, are they a dark horse to win the tournament? Possibly. But yeah, they're a good side. You know, Depay as well hasn't played brilliantly, but he still scores. Scored a few goals for them. They're up against the Czech Republic, who destroyed Scotland. You know, everyone thought the Czech Republic would finish bottom of the group, and I was one of them. You know, I really did think they were going to finish bottom. Patrick Schick scored probably the best goal of the tournament from the halfway line against Scotland. Then they played Croatia, and again, they could have easily won, to be honest. You know, they took the lead in that game. And then they played England. They only lost to England 1-0, but they played much better in the second half against England. I think England were very, very negative against them in the second half, but fair play to the Czechs. You know, Sufal and Souček in the middle of the pitch, the West Ham players, 2 best players. For the Czech Republic, I think this is where it will end, to be honest. I just don't think they got quite enough quality, just like Austria, who have not got quite enough quality overall. They've still got quality players, these 2 teams, but they're playing against Holland and Italy, who've got better individuals. So yeah, I think Netherlands will win, but you know, you can never count out the Czechs, but you know, Holland should win pretty comprehensively. So yeah, I'm going for the Dutch to qualify for the quarterfinals. Belgium against Portugal, probably the best game. Probably, well, along with England and Germany, which we'll go on to later. One of the best games in the last 16. You know, Belgium, outstandingly good in the group stage. You know, had a bit of a wobble against Denmark. Didn't play very well in the first half. You know, comprehensively beat Russia. And they beat Finland pretty comprehensively. You know, even though it took a while against Finland, they did win eventually. Lukaku's been excellent in this tournament. KVB as well will start against Portugal. I mean, he hasn't been, obviously, the injury picked up in the Champions League final, but he came on against Denmark and changed the game. Outstanding player, probably the best attacking midfielder at the tournament, to be honest, Kevin De Bruyne. But yeah, Belgium, you know, they're a very good team. You know, could this be their time to finally win a tournament? We'll have to wait and see. But, you know, they're playing against Portugal, who had a mixed group stage. You know, they struggled against Hungary until the last 10 minutes, where Ronaldo came to the rescue and they won 3-0. They then played Germany, who beat them comprehensively 4-2. That was a really awful performance by Portugal in that game. You know, they didn't play well against Germany. And then they obviously played France in the last game and drew 2-2 with them in a really outstandingly good game. That was a brilliant game to watch, that France and Portugal. But yeah, I think Portugal got some really good players. Renato Sanchez was excellent against France the other day. But it's a really tough one to call between these 2 teams. Both teams have quality. They really do. Bruno Fernandes, De Bruyne, Lukaku, Ronaldo, João Felix. João Felix hasn't even played yet, you know, but, you know, he might come on. You know, Bruno, I've already mentioned. You know, Pepe, there's some absolute quality. You know, Meunier, they've got some Hazard, there's some absolute quality in both these teams. But I think Belgium have just got a bit more quality. And I think Belgium will edge it. I think it'll be a 2-1 or so after extra time possibly. Or maybe a 2-1 in normal time. I do fancy Belgium to win. I really do. I think Belgium will just edge it. But there'll be no shame for Portugal. You know, they're the European champions in the last tournament. They finished 3rd again. You know, they could eat in the group. And they could easily go on and do it again. Finish 3rd in the group and go on and win it. You never know. They'll be Belgium's biggest test so far, I think. But, yeah, I'm going to go for Belgium. I think Belgium will beat Portugal, but I think it'll be a really interesting game. Croatia against Spain is the next game that I'm going to talk about. Croatia, you know, started badly against England, lost 1-0 at Wembley. Then they drew the Czech Republic in a game they could have easily lost, but they could have easily won as well. That was quite a 50-50 game with the Czech Republic and Croatia. But then their best performance was against Scotland. You know, Modric turned up. He scored an absolute rasper in that game. It was an outstandingly good goal by Modric. He was absolutely tremendous against Scotland, eliminating them from the tournament. But yeah, Croatia are a very interesting side. You know, they did play Spain in qualifying for the Nations League last year. They lost 6-0 to Spain. Then they beat Spain 3-2. So the games between them in the Nations League recent years were quite... Well, apart from the 6-0 where Spain completely dominated, in the second game when they beat Spain... they can compete with Spain. You know, they beat England at the World Cup. You know, gave France, you know, at times in the World Cup final before France took over, a really, really tough game. You know, Croatia can cause a shock. They really can. You know, Perisic, Mandzukic, Modric is their best player as well. And Perisic, I think them two are outstanding. Rebic. I don't think Mandzukic in the squad. Is he injured? I don't know where Mandzukic is, but Kramaric as well, the former Leicester striker. He's really good as well for Croatia. So they're no mugs. They're playing against Spain, who I think are very underwhelming. I don't rate Spain at all. Spain will be favourites. Don't get me wrong. Spain will be favourites against Croatia. Croatia are aging a bit as well. That's probably what's... And Spain, you would say, have got a bit more youth in their team. But yeah, Spain, very underwhelming group stage. Drew with Sweden when they should have won and they didn't. Really awful. You know, Sweden could have easily won that game as well. Really was poor from Spain. You know, Morata has been awful at this tournament, and Moreno, they've been terrible. Spain keep missing penalties as well. Really poor from Spain. Then the second game, they played against Poland. And again, in the game they didn't turn up in. Again, you know, second game, though, Spain didn't play great against Poland. And then in the third game, you know, they beat Slovakia 5-0, but it took them ages to score. You know, once they scored, Slovakia just basically gave up, but yeah, that was Spain's best performance, to be honest, against Slovakia. I don't rate the Spanish team. I don't rate their manager either. What's his name? I can't remember the manager's name, to be honest. Luis Enrique, that's it, the former Barcelona manager. I don't rate him at all. I really don't. But yeah, I think it'll be an interesting game. I think Croatia will win. I do. I think Croatia will beat Spain. I don't think Spain are all that special. I really don't. I don't think Spain... I think Croatia on their day are a better team than Spain. At least they actually play a bit of pace. Spain is so boring, to be honest with you. They're playing the same style that they played for when they won the World Cup and the Euros like 6 years ago. Really, really is poor from Spain. But yeah, I think Croatia will win. I really do. And yeah, so yeah, I'm going to go for Croatia in that game. France against Switzerland. You know, France got through the group. They were the winners of the group of death, along with Portugal and Germany and Hungary. You know, they beat Germany in the first game, 1-0. You know, own goal by Hummels. They didn't play great. France don't play great in this tournament, like to that absolute pinnacle. They played some absolutely breathtaking stuff against Portugal, the passing and stuff at times, but they're not a complete performance so far from the French. You know, then they played Hungary in the second game, drew 1-1 with them. You know, Hungary gave them a bit of a fright, but France did recover and come back to draw the game. And then they played Portugal. They played Portugal in the last game. They could have easily lost that game. You know, Portugal were the better team in the first half. France were the better team in the second half. Really was a competitive game with them and Portugal. But, you know, they haven't hit top gear yet, the French. They really haven't. But, you know, they're still the favourites for the tournament. Like I said, at times in the second half, they did play some really good football, France. You know, a different level to everybody else. They're playing against... I think they'll beat Switzerland. You know, Switzerland... were in Wales's group. They didn't finish second. They still got through because they beat Turkey in the last game. But yeah, I think Switzerland, you know, in the first game against Wales, they should have won and they didn't. Embolo was the best player on the pitch. But yeah, Switzerland didn't win that game. Then they got outclassed by Italy in Rome in the second game. But then they beat Turkey. They beat Turkey in the last game because Shaqiri scored an absolutely brilliant goal in that game. On their day, you know, they're a really tough team to crack, Switzerland. I think they played France. I can't remember if it was at the World Cup or the Euros. I'm not sure when it was. I think it might have been the Euros before. I think it might have been before that. I can't remember exactly when they played each other. They did play each other at a tournament a few years back. France won 5-2 in a really competitive game. Switzerland did give them a good game. You know, it was 5-2. You know, they did give France a few scares in that game. But I just think you can't put anything past France in this game. I think France just have too much quality for the Swiss team. You know, Switzerland have played some decent teams so far. You know, the only other team they've played who's been quality has been Italy. You know, Wales will respect them, and Turkey, you know, who are awful in this tournament. Everyone thought Turkey were going to do really well, and they didn't. And not as good as France. You know, France are the world champions for a reason. Benzema as well is on form. Griezmann as well. Mbappe hasn't even scored yet, but he probably will if Switzerland aren't careful. But yeah, I'm going to go for France. I think France will win pretty comprehensively. I think they've got the best game, really, out of the big teams. So yeah, France to win that one. The big one, the second big one, on Tuesday at Wembley, England, winners of Group D against Germany, who are runners-up of the group of death behind France. Let's talk about England. England qualified, but I think we've been absolutely boring to watch. You know, Gareth Southgate, I don't rate him at all as manager. I think he's boring. I really do. I don't think he inspires any of the players. I don't think the players really want him because he just doesn't want to play attacking football. You know, the first game we played against Croatia was so boring, and we did win the game 1-0. With first 20 minutes, we played all right, but then as soon as we scored the goal, we sat back and we didn't play as well. Don't understand why. Then we played Scotland, which we should have lost. We were awful against Scotland. Absolutely terrible. Really was bad. Playing two defensive midfielders against Scotland. There was no, with all due respect to the Scots, you know, we shouldn't have done that, and Scotland were the better side. Really, we were really lucky we didn't lose that game. It was an awful display by England. Really was poor, slow, methodical, really, really crappy performance. And then we played Czech Republic in the last game. And again, it was like the Croatia game. You know, we scored the goal. Then we petered off the rest of the game. Really poor from England so far in this tournament. Not excited me at all. I'm an England fan. I've been so disappointed with how we played in this tournament so far. I'm happy we've won, but not convincingly, in my opinion. How are we going to win anything if we don't up our game? You know, but yeah, very, very disappointed for England. You know, we've got so many good players in the squad as well. We've got Saka, Sancho. Sancho's not even getting any minutes. And Sterling, who has scored the goals in the games, two of the games we played. He's been awful otherwise. You know, he really doesn't deserve to start, Sterling. And Sancho should be given a chance. Harry Kane as well. What's wrong with him? He's not played well in this tournament so far. Hasn't scored yet, Harry Kane. But, yeah, England, you know, they will be favourites against Germany, you know, at Wembley. We haven't beaten Germany at a tournament for ages. I can't remember the last time we beat Germany at a tournament. You know, obviously everyone's talking about this game going to be Southgate's redemption against Germany because of the penalty miss at Euro 96. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what Southgate does. I'm just worried that he's going to play negative against Germany, who have got weaknesses. As for Germany, you know, Germany, like Portugal, you know, they had a really interesting group stage. First game, they played France. They didn't play badly. You know, France got a bit of luck and won the game. Really was pretty even, to be honest. Then they played Portugal, and everyone was expecting Portugal to beat them, and they didn't. You know, Germany were outstanding against Portugal. They went 1-0 down, but they came back and completely battered Portugal. Really was an outstanding performance by Germany in that game. You know, really good record against Portugal in tournaments, Germany. You know, really, really good performance in that game. Goossens, for me, has been their best player. The fullback, he's been outstanding. Really has been good so far. Now, then they played Hungary, and they weren't good against Hungary. They were on their way out of the tournament at one stage. Hungary played really well against them. You know, their defence is really poor. Hummels, you know, you can't get around the pitch like he used to. England should exploit that, but I just don't think we're going to play that system. I think Southgate will be negative. But, you know, it's a really hard one to predict. You know, I think I'm going to go for England. I am going to go for England. I think England will win. I think it'll be after extra time, and I think Germany will tire and will score on the break. I think Harry Kane will finally score, but we've got to get the right players in. Don't play free sitting midfielders, Southgate, whatever you do, please. But I think that's what he'll do to stop Germany for some reason. But yeah, I'm going to go for England. But, you know, we've got to play a lot better. A lot better if we get past. Well, we have to play well against Germany, but then we've got to play a lot better in the next bit, whoever we play. But yeah, I think England will win, but, you know, not inspired by England so far in the tournament. Sweden, and finally Sweden against Ukraine. It'll be a really interesting game. England will play the winner of this game, or Germany will play the winner of this game next Saturday, I think it is, 8 o'clock kickoff. No, Sweden, you know, really good performance so far defensively. Won Spain's group. Could have easily beaten Spain in the first game. Alexander Isak's been a breath of fresh air. He's been absolutely outstanding. I know he hasn't scored yet, but he's given defences all sorts of problems with his pace and his trickery. You know, Forsberg as well has scored 2 goals against Poland. You know, I was expecting Poland to finish ahead of Sweden, but they didn't. You know, they beat Poland in the last game. You know, really good performance, you know, in that game. They did let in 2 goals against Poland, but they did win the game. Second game was against Slovakia. They won, just about. They shut Slovakia out. But yeah, Sweden are a hard team to break down. They really are. They're a very good unit. Again, a very good, passionate side, Sweden. You know, they've got some good players. They really have. You know, Seb Larsson, Isaac, Alexander Isaac. They've got some good players. But yeah, I think they'll be favourites against Ukraine, who finished third behind Austria and the Netherlands in their group. You know, Ukraine, you know, Nunchuk, where his name is the striker, he's been outstanding in this tournament. Played really well in the second half against Holland. And again, they could have won, but they threw it away. Really unlucky from Ukraine in that game. Then they played North Macedonia. They beat them comprehensively. Then they lost to Austria in the last game. But, yeah, Ukraine, you know, Yarmolenko, Nunchuk, as I said, you know, they got some good players. It'll be an interesting game. The battle of the yellow and blues in this game. I think I'm going to go Sweden. I think Sweden will shut Ukraine out. Ukraine will get frustrated. And I think Isaac will score. Alexander Isaac will score. And I think Sweden will go through to play England in the next bit. But yeah, those are my predictions. You know, I'll do another video. Probably Sunday. Oh, when do the games end? Actually, not Sunday. When is it? Tuesday night. I think I'll do predictions for the quarterfinals of whoever gets through. I'll do a prediction for that as well. But yeah, thanks for watching this video. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.